Hey everybody, Scoutcrafty here again. It's Wednesday, and today it's a big day because not only do we have a really good episode planned, but I also, today we're going to be announcing the challenge for this, the first challenge of 2022, and I think a lot of you are going to be on board with this. It should be a fun challenge, and I'll talk to about that in a little while. I just wanted to recap, yesterday, I met up with a good friend of mine, Bruce Groton. You've known him. You've heard about him on the show before. He's really a good guy. And it's because I'm going to be doing a show in the next week or so. And it has to do with a specific item that Bruce was nice enough to donate one of the items to the show, which will be coming up next week. And so he drove in, met me, and afterwards I had to get gas. I had to fill up my tank. And I have to tell you something. Ever since I was a kid, I've always been enamored with gas stations. I absolutely love the whole idea of gas stations. And back in the heyday of the gas station, when cars were king, especially in the, the 50s and 60s and 70s, there was a huge competition between gas stations. So that's when the full service, it's a shame because we don't have too many. When they say full service, they would check your tires, your air pressure. They would wash your window. They check your radiator fluid, your battery. I mean, it was a real full service. But, today, when you shop for price, you give up all that. You give up all the service and everything. And I'm just the opposite. I love a nice gas station, always have. And during the 50s, they had such spectacular stations with anything. Remember, you had competition, so they wanted to get your business. And how did they do that? Just like other stores, capitalism. They would say, well, I'm going to offer better services. I'm going to offer a cleaner, larger, nicer restrooms, and people would say, I'm going to that station. And, I believe that today we would still do the same thing, but I think that, that in general, the public have been, I don't know, they've been nullified. They just don't know what they're doing. A lot of times they're like sheeple, but not me. I love a good gas station, and I will pay 10 or 15 cents a gallon more. I don't care if this station is nice. I mean, think about it. What are we getting? 10 gallons, 15 gallons of fill? So you mean for $1 or $1.50, I can really enjoy my experience at that gas station? You think I'm gonna, I'm gonna do away with that just so I can go to some dirty station that I don't know what condition their tanks are in, and what the gas I'm pumping into my car is like? You got to put good fuel in your car. My father was big on that. My father was always saying, you got to stick with the same gas stations. Years ago, bad gas was more common than it is today. The standards are much higher today and the regulations, but years ago, you get a batch, and I bet you some of you old-timers are laughing out there. You get a batch of bad gas, and you be driving around, and all of a sudden your car starts sputtering, and it happened like 10 minutes after you got it, filled up, and you knew you got a bad batch. You were like, damn it, and the thing be like, and after run. Remember after run when you shut the car off and the car would go, and it make that sound? Thank God all that's past us now, but I still like a good gas station. And, can you imagine, look at this gas station here with that bomber on top. How cool is that? I would have definitely went there. But, anyway, when I was going home, I ran into a nice I even took a couple pictures. Look at this station I went to. It's Conoco gas station out there in out Long Island. It was just a beautiful station. I even went into the guy when I was paying for my gas, because I don't use the credit cards. I pay by cash. And when I went in, I said to the guy, I said, man, you got a nice station. He was so happy to hear that. I said, you run a good station. I said, I'm from Queens, so I said, I appreciate it. He said, oh, yeah, and, thank you for coming. And I love that stuff. I love good service. And Bruce and I, we were talking for a while, and there was an antique shop there where we met. We went walking around. What a great time we had walking around the antique shop. And I always told you, antique shops are expensive a lot of times, but you could pick up, you can always find something. Let me show you what I found at the antique shop for a good price. We were walking around and looking at different things. It's always enjoyable. But one thing I saw was this, and and it was marked at $6, and they had 20% off at their booth. So I said, wow, look at that. You know, new old stock, can it be? I love these. You know, this is an old price marker. Now, this is before most of your time for the people watching, but years ago they used to mark, before even the stickers, they would mark the price directly on it with ink, the item you were buying. So again, this is just as it was there yesterday, new old stock, how it would come in a box. When I used to love when things came in boxes instead of that clamshell. And this is the original packaging. And look at this here, okay? Now, this is exactly how I found it. Fingerprints and all. Probably, let me wipe it down, take some of the fingerprints off. Okay, I wiped off all the fingerprints and everything. Let's take a look at what this is here. You can see here, it says, a Justrite manufactured by Lewis Millen Corporation. And they were out of Chicago. And you can see what it is. It's a price marker, and it's just the mechanism of this. I thought it's just absolutely fascinating. And I remember these as kids. I remember, you know, when I was a kid going in there, they had these, and it made a specific sound when they used to stamp something. And how this works is there's an ink pad on top there, you see, and this mechanism will flip this around, and what you do is you set the price, and to set the price you squeeze it like this, and here are your numbers. Let me turn it this way. So if you wanted to have a specific number, you know, you would mark it down. It's going to be backwards because remember, it's printed that way, but you would mark whatever price you want. They even had price, you know, the quarter or half. You could see here they had different ones, and you would just spin these little knobs until these rubber stamps came up there, and you could set whatever you wanted across here. And here are some examples of things you could put down. They had lines that do cent marking, grocery, whatever, see, plus tax. You know, so you can add whatever you wanted on here, and then when you squeeze this down, it would take the ink from the pad, flip it around, stamp it, and then re-ink it. It's just genius. And then simplicity, but genius. And this thing was, you know, guys, the grocers would carry this around, and I guess you would ink it up before, you know, when it started to get dry and it wasn't leaving the ink. But isn't that nice? That sound, right? Isn't that a nice little unit for, it came out to $5.20 with tax. So I thought that was one good buy at the antique store that was very expensive.
Funny thing is, I kept saying, Bruce, that's right? It is $6, right? I'm not reading this wrong? Because, you know, that's when you get up there and they say, okay, it's $60 minus, you know, and you're like, oh, I thought it was $6. I've done that before. Okay, next up, real quick, I got something I want to show you. I think you'll enjoy.
The other day when we did our lantern light-off, a couple people said something about, do you have any Coleman lanterns? And when they say Coleman lanterns, these are traditionally what you think of when you hear the word Coleman lanterns. These were popularized by the company Coleman. Now, these type of lanterns are pressurized. They have a little pump on the side here that you open up and pressurize the fuel cell, and then that forces the vapors up, and it goes through what's called a generator, and it lights these mantles. They used to be made of like a silk type mantle, and it's and that's what burns. They're extremely bright. They're very efficient. But we couldn't use these in Scouts anyway here in New York. I don't know about the rest of the country, but we were banned from using any kind of liquid fuel, and you could see the reason why. It used a Coleman type fuel, which was made for stoves and these lanterns, but it was a white gas type fuel, very flammable, and it could be a lot of trouble if you mishandled it. So we were only allowed to use propane lanterns, and I have a bunch of those, and they burn the same candle power as these, but the propane was a little bit safer to use. You know, we've never had an incident with that I've been around. And this here is, you know, you could tell a lot of guys collect these. We have a subscriber, Stunt Car Driver. He's got the biggest collection of these of anybody I know. In fact, he's got the
largest lantern light off of anybody. He lit, like 200 he has of these. But what's really interesting is you have to know what you're doing with these lanterns, because they do require a little bit of maintenance and care, unlike the kerosene lanterns, which, you can just pop kerosene in a wick and you're done. But one thing I like about this particular lantern, this one here, this one obviously is missing the glass. This one here, this handle, I always love these reflectors. You very rarely find these around too much. These reflectors that go on because, when you burn a lantern, a lot of times it's blinding you from the back or whatever, and you just want the light going one way. So you don't see these too often, but when you do, they're highly collectible and a really nice addition to any type of lamp that you might have. But one thing I want to tell you, the reason I'm telling you is never ever burn this fuel, Coleman fuel, in a kerosene lantern. Kerosene lanterns are meant to burn one thing, kerosene. And some guys use the tiki or the fuel for the tiki torches, things like that. But kerosene is what they're meant to burn. And that's what you're safest with, kerosene, K1. But this fuel here, if you have this, only use this for these torches. If you put this in a kerosene lantern, you're at, it could have a runoff where they kind of explode, more or less. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer here. Okay, now I know you're chomping at the bit to find out what the challenge is going to be. Let's talk about that right now. This is endearing to me, and it was something I was thinking about for a long time. When I was 14 years old about then, and I started getting into tools, I just got into Scouts, and I wanted to make something. This is the first project I ever made that I felt was like a success. The first thing I ever really made. And my grandmother used to have, hanging on for years, she had this they used to give away at businesses. They would always have these giveaways and things like that. And one of the giveaways they had was a little keyboard that you can hang on your wall and you could put keys on. Well, Huz only had like 2 or 3 places to hang the keys, and it was filled up and it was always dropping off. So one day I said, I'm going to make my grandmother a keyboard to put up there. And I came down here, and I remember I was planning it. I drew it out. I was a young man at the time, and I wanted to do it, and she was so happy with it. And let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay, this was my actual first woodworking project, and I tell you, I know you're looking at this going, what a piece of junk this is, and you're kidding me, right? But this meant so much to me as a kid, and I'll tell you why. Because when you do something, you make your first project and you have accolades from your family and say, wow, that's nice, or something, that gives you the incentive to go further. I know, looking back, but they say the journey of 1,000 miles always starts with a single step. This was my first step right here. And I'll tell you something, this thing means more to me than some of the most beautiful projects I've done, because this is where it all began for me. And it was just a keyboard. And I remember, now this is 45 years ago I made this, and I'm telling you, I could still remember thinking, like, look, you can see the line where I drew it across because I wanted this to be straight, the keys. And I remember going up to the hardware store up the street, up to Lemac, and getting the letters to spell out keys. Remember when these in the 70s, they used to sell these for, and the cup hooks. I remember the cup hooks, getting the cup hooks to put on here because and then getting them even because I wanted them straight and even, using so that they would look right. And I used a piece of plywood. This was 3/4 inch plywood, and then I distressed the ends with a file using my grandfather's file to make. That was big in the 70s. And then I stained it, and oh, my grandmother was ecstatic with it. She had this on her wall. It's been in the same spot for 45 years, never changed. In fact, this is what it looks like now when I put all the keys on it and stuff. You can see, it's still got, but I took the keys off just to show you here. So this is what the challenge is. I want you to make some sort of holder for keys, a keyboard, a key cabinet. Now, there are so many different types. Now, here's where I want your imagination to run wild. I want you to think about, I want you to go above and beyond with this one, because obviously it's a challenge, and you know, it should say keys on it or something to let people know, or you can have hooks, or you can have a cabinet, or you can have some kind of shelf, because sometimes if you have just nails in a board and you're trying to hang up a key, a lot of times the key might fall, something to catch it. Think about this. I want you to design, think about it. And I tried to make a project something, because I know for you, some of you guys, it's cold in the shop now and you can't get in the shop. So this, you could do a lot of this on the kitchen table, more or less. Once you get your idea down pat, make a keyboard. If it's not for yourself, it's a great gift for somebody else that don't have one. And I'm telling you, you hang one of these on the wall, it's a place to put your keys. If you've ever lost your keys before, or a key, you know what a pain that is. Oh my God, you know, thank God, knock on wood, I've not lost keys in a long time. But I remember I went through a spell when I was losing keys, and when I would get one, I would make up a whole nother set of keys and hang it there for when I did lose it. But thank goodness, you know, I'm really careful about that now. So a keyboard, that's the challenge. What do you think about it? I hope you're on board. I think it's going to be a great challenge, and hope that you'll enjoy it. Okay, so in closing, you have till the 28th of this month to finish that project. That'll give you 3 weeks. That's plenty of time. And you could send me your entries from the 24th to the 28th. Don't send them before, because, you know, that they do get lost when you send too early. So the week of the 28th, you could start sending the entries, and it's due by the midnight of the 28th. And then the following Monday, we will have the results and a video for that. So looking forward to that challenge, the make a key board or key rack or key container or key cabinet, whatever. Think you'll think something good out. I'm sure a lot of good imagination out there. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hope you have a great day. Take care now. Bye-bye.